Sup nerds, I'm Tom. Today we're going to talk about the new edition for Dinosaur Island, which is totally a ripoff of Jurassic Park, but so is Tiny Epic Dinos and Jurassic Parts. How come if a game's going to be about dinosaurs, it has to rip off Jurassic Park? How come they're not talking about other dinosaur movies like Land Before Time? Oh no. So since we haven't reviewed Dinosaur Island on our channel yet, this is going to be a full review for the game. Now I know this is the new edition, so I will talk about the differences, which I think is pretty much just the dino shapes. Honestly, that's the only one that I can tell. I did play Dinosaur Island a few times a while ago, when it first came out. But looking at this now, I really can't tell. There might be minor rule changes and things cleaned up a little bit. Maybe, but I can't really tell. The only difference that I can notice is the dinosaur shapes. So, yep. At its core, Dinosaur Island is a worker placement game, but it's, a twist on worker placement, as most worker placement games now are, right? I was even having this discussion with some of my friends about, we played, 5 worker placement games in a row. We played, Marco Polo, and then we played the Tidal Blades, and Whistle Mountain, and it was everything is worker placement. Dinosaur Island's also worker placement. But worker placement, I always feel has the biggest variety. You can do a lot with worker placement and make each game feel really unique. Deck building, there's a lot of similarities in different deck building games, and tile placement, you really have to have tile placement plus something else for those to feel really unique. A lot of tile placement games tend to feel the same. But anyways, this one is worker placement, but the twist is there's actually 2 types of workers, not just placing 2 different types of workers, just 2 different types of worker placement phases. The first one, you're placing these flat tokens. Here numbered 1, 2, and 3. And actually, I think if you can track down a Kickstarter version of Dinosaur Island, no, I'm not even talking about the new edition. If you can track down a Kickstarter version, I think these are not flat little tokens, which is the only component upgrade I would, like to have. I mean, the components in this game are phenomenal, except for the idea of placing a worker as a flat disc is always kind of weird. But whatever. This has numbers 1 through 3. And that's mostly how you gain resources. You place them by these big old chunky dice. You will get the amount of resources shown times the number you place. So if you place a 1, you'll get, whatever the dice shows. But if you place a 3 and the dice itself shows 3, you're going to get 9 of that resource. However, those resources are tracked on your board. And you do have these little black limit cubes. So if the cube is at 5, well then it doesn't matter how much I gain, my cube for the resource can never go above 4. Does that make sense? These flat workers are also mostly used to get these big old dinosaur tiles, because you're building your park on this second board. You have these 2 big-ass boards that are, going to take up... This game is a major table hog. I do like how the main boards in the center are at least these little modular boards, so you can try and finagle a way to make them fit. It is kind of nice if you could have it go phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, if you have that in order a little bit. But this game is just... again, I don't have a nice game top or a tabletop at my place. Ooh, we're doing the plug-in in the middle of the video. But in my tiny little apartment, I just have this little folding table, and I probably really can't play this game. It would be really difficult to finagle making everything fit on there. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. You have this board that keeps track of all of your resources and stuff, and you have some other little worker placement things here too. But then you have this board that's building your park, where you put either big old dinosaur tiles where you're breeding dinosaurs and making, those are big attractions. But then you can also have food and rides and gift shops and stuff, right? Which makes sense. I mean, as awesome as an actual living, breathing dinosaur will be to see, if you go to a park, there's going to be a freaking Starbucks there. That's just going to happen. But I do feel that the placement of these tiles doesn't really matter. It doesn't really feel like a tile placement game. Now... Granted, I haven't looked at every single tile. Maybe there's 1 or 2 that scores based on adjacency, but I doubt it. It really feels like it's just limited on space. So you have to make you have to make some decisions and put things a little bit evenly, but the placement of the tiles is really not a big part of the game. But anyways, after you do that phase 1, where you either get resources or get big old dino tiles, then you go to phase 2, where you purchase more things. You get the smaller tiles, which is the shops and the restaurants and whatnot. You can get other little tiles that go on your board, which is for the second worker placement phase, which is phase 3. Or you can buy these specialists, which are like special ability cards. So there's, I mean, tons of stuff to buy and tons of availability, but like, you have to think about, it's almost kind of good that that's 2 phases because, or 3 phases really, because in the first phase, you just focus on getting resources and dino tiles. Second phase, you focus on, see if I want to get any other special abilities or other worker spots or these small tiles. And then when you get over to phase 3, you place workers. This is how you this is actually the bigger worker placement phase. Like the first phase where you're getting resources is, I mean, it's necessary, but you feel like you're making harsher decisions here. But also this part can be done like simultaneously because you're really only playing on your own player board. But one of the main things you're going to do there is you're going to create dinosaurs. So these, the rides and the restaurants and whatever, the gift shops, they just are what they are. They're points and money or whatever. You're going to get the stuff from them no matter what. The dinosaur tiles, though, they will give you points and excitement based on how many dinos you have of that type. So like initially you're going to spend resources to make like 1, but then you're going to want to upgrade the pen so it can hold more dinosaurs, and then you're going to build 2 and 3, and that multiplies the amount of points you get. So if it's 7 points per dinosaur, well, hey, if I have 3 dinosaurs there, that's some math I can't even do. But then that's also going to increase the danger. So that's the other thing that you have to keep track of on your main board is you have this security and threat level. Security level and threat level. And you want to make sure your security is always above your threat. Otherwise, bad stuff are going to happen. Because phase 3 I just talked about is worker placement. Phase 4, that's when people come to the park. And you draw from this bag, which actually I'm realizing I keep all my dino shapes in the bag. So I'll pull some of those out. These meeples are the visitors that are coming to your park. And, you're going to get essentially like either points or money depending on how many people can get into your park, but they have to have something to do, right? So like they'll line up outside if the excitement level is really high and they really want to get in, but they need to go to rides or go to food or go to see the dinosaurs. So if you don't have enough places for them to go, they're just going to stay outside, and that's not good. But also there are these hooligans, these pink ones where that sneak in. They don't pay to get in, so they don't give you points or money, and they also, when dinosaurs attack, which is something that can happen, they sneak away. This is the only mechanic I don't know if I really like, because, I mean, there are mitigating things like in the specialists and stuff that can get rid of them, but it just feels like a random negative effect. I don't really like negative things in games. Like, I want to just build my own thing and do stuff. I don't want to spend time and investing in something and then it just goes away just because, especially when it's random. Just, I happen to draw some really bad things and it sucks now. A bad thing happened to you and it didn't happen to me just because. Now I know I'm just barreling through the game here. I obviously don't take this as a how to play, but the only other things that I didn't really mention, there's a solo game, but I never really play solo games, so I can't really comment on that. But there are these game changer things, which just give you slight rule variations game to game, which is cool. Those are, game changers. They're not going to change the game completely, but I can hire an extra specialist. Minor things like that, which are fun. But then there's also the way the game is, the game end is triggered is based off these objective cards. And you have short, medium, and long game objective cards. You'll put out a certain number of them depending on the number of players. And when enough of those have been completed by players is what triggers the end of the game. And I like this idea. I like the idea that there's a lot of variability here, but also you can choose not just short, medium, long because of like number of rounds, but you can, the short game could use these objectives or a combination of these objectives, and then a medium game can use all of these objectives or some of these or 2 of these, you know what I mean? But I would almost maybe recommend not to do a short game. For your first game, like I was teaching it to players, right? So I chose a short game and it was over in like 4 rounds. It was somewhere between 3 and 5. We couldn't remember. We were like, wait, how many rounds was this? But I think it could have been 3, was probably 4, maybe it was 5 and I wasn't paying attention. But I think we actually did like an extra round after that because we were like, all right, that was granted, we were barreling forward trying to get the objectives, which is what you want to do, because really only one person can get an objective unless we happen to do it like at the exact same time. But, you want to hurry up and get the objectives done to get the points. But yeah, I feel like a medium game would be a better short game experience, if that makes sense. My thoughts overall on this game is that I do think it's pretty good. I don't know if I'd say I love it. It's definitely in Is it a great game? So I recently went and culled a lot of stuff from my collection. I got rid of like, I think 150 something games in my collection, mostly because I'm moving. And I was at the point where I was saying, obviously bad games don't make the cut, but a good game doesn't make the cut. Even great games. I'm looking at games, I'm like, this is great, but I have other games that are like it, or like I haven't played it in a while, or it takes too long, or whatever, and I have to get rid of a great game. This game, I probably would put it in the great category. It's not going to be in my top 10, but it's up there. It does have that problem of, well, there's a lot of worker placement games, but this one does separate itself pretty well, having the two different worker placement phases, which you'd think would be a little clunky, but I think it works really well because they don't really relate to each other all that much. You just think about what you're going to do in phase 1, think about what you're going to do in phase 2. You know what I mean? Like they feel like different games, different phases, right? And of course the components are phenomenal. I actually don't love the colors and stuff. They're very neon, kind of that retro 80s feel, which is cool, but it does take me out a little bit. I guess I'd rather have too colorful than not colorful enough. Like there's real pastel colors from a lot of, really bland Euro games. This is better than that. But I'm more aware that I'm playing a game. It's not really cartoony. It's not cartoony artwork, but it does kind of cartoonify the experience, if that makes sense. I don't know. It just takes the realism away a little bit. But whatever. That's just me. Overall, gameplay, really enjoyable. My complaints are, I don't really like the Hooligans. It's a huge, massive table hog. Everybody gets this really big player board. Oh, wait, they get 2 really big player boards. Ugh. And it's really hard to get everything back into the box. I know that Broken Token, and there's a bunch of other things that have, there's inserts, and I think Broken Token even has like a crate for it, which is probably cool. Now for this edition, again, I can't really tell how much this is different from the other retail edition, except for the different dino shapes. So obviously if you already own this game, you don't need to get the new edition. There is also an expansion for this game that I did play once a while ago, but it was only like my second time playing Dinosaur Island, and it had been a while since the first, it was not a good experience for me at that time because I was still trying to wrap my head around the game, and the other people I were playing with were much more experienced and they were crushing. But I would like to play that again, and also there's Dinosaur Island and the Dinosaur World, so I'm definitely interested in taking a look at more stuff in this universe. And if any of what I was talking about in this video sounds interesting to you, go ahead and click the purchase link in the description box down below. Get yourself a copy. Also, there's going to be a link down there for game toppers. Also, there's going to be a button that says subscribe, because if you subscribe to our channel, then you will never be bored.